The city of Chicago has waited, and the wait is finally over. The Bears are back from their bye week, but this time, they're not just returning to play football. They're returning with something bigger: momentum, hope, and the fire of redemption burning deep inside every player's chest. After a rocky start to the season, this team has quietly rebuilt itself during the break. In the shadows of Halas Hall, drills got sharper, players got hungrier, and the air inside that locker room began to change. And now, the Bears step back onto the field with one mission: to prove that this second half of the season will be different. The news coming out of Chicago isn't just about preparation, it's about reinforcements. Key starters and crucial depth pieces are finally ready to make their return, giving this roster a shot of adrenaline right when it's needed most. And at the center of it all is Austin Booker. If you've followed the Bears even a little, you know this name carries weight, not because he's a veteran, but because of what he showed before everything went wrong. Booker was a storm during the preseason, explosive off the line, relentless in pursuit, and impossible to ignore. 3.5 sacks, double-digit tackles, multiple tackles for loss, and that rare instinct to change a game's momentum with one play. The kid was electric. Then, in an instant, it was gone. An injury on special teams sent him to injured reserve before the season even began, a crushing blow for a defense that desperately needed his energy. But now, the waiting ends. Booker's IR period is up. The window to return is open. And Chicago fans can finally start to imagine what this defense could look like with him back in uniform. Reports out of Halas Hall suggest the Bears have opened his 21-day practice window, and if everything checks out, if his conditioning holds, if his stamina returns, he could be back this week. Imagine that, Austin Booker, lined up across from Washington's offensive line on Monday Night Football, ready to unleash everything he's been holding in for months. Of course, that's easier said than done. Even though Booker's been working off to the side, staying active and staying sharp, there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape. The coaches know it. The fans know it. And Booker himself knows this isn't just about healing, it's about proving he's ready to step back into the fire. But make no mistake, if he's even close to ready, the Bears could use him. This defense, already trending upward before the bye, could suddenly transform into something dangerous. Booker brings a spark, that violent first step, that high motor, that confidence that spreads like wildfire across the defensive front. If he's back on the field, the Commanders' offensive line better be ready. Because this young man has been waiting to erupt. And what makes it even more exciting? Austin Booker isn't alone. When a team spends a month battling injuries, the bye week becomes a gift, and for the Bears, it's paying off in a big way. Along with Booker, several other names are beginning to surface as potential returnees, each one carrying a piece of the puzzle that Chicago's been missing. Let's start with Travis Homer, the running back who's been nursing a calf injury. His return could bring much-needed depth and stability to a backfield that's been struggling for rhythm. The Bears' run game has looked uncertain, flashes of brilliance followed by frustrating stagnation. Homer might not be a star, but his ability on special teams and his reliability as a rotational back could make a real difference down the stretch. Then there's linebacker Amen Ogbombemiga, sidelined with a shoulder injury but also eligible to start his practice window. His return would strengthen special teams and add valuable depth behind the starters, especially in a defense that thrives on rotation and fresh legs. All of this points to a simple truth: Chicago is getting healthy at the perfect time. And while some fans focus on names, the real story here is about chemistry. Football isn't just about who's on the field, it's about how those pieces connect. When young talents like Booker rejoin veterans who've been grinding through adversity, it creates a surge of energy that changes everything. That's what's happening right now inside Halas Hall, a locker room realizing that its best football might still be ahead. But before we continue, and hey, if you're loving this kind of deep Bears coverage, real, emotional, and straight from Chicago, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. This community is growing every single week, and your support keeps it alive. Let's make sure every Bears fan knows what's really happening behind the scenes. Now let's get back to it. Because things are about to get even more exciting. Now, the comeback story continues. When Booker steps back into practice, the Bears will need to make a roster decision. Someone has to come off the 53-man list to make space. That means tough choices, maybe even emotional ones. Chicago's current roster is stacked with young, hungry players fighting for every snap. Guys like Daniel Hardy, who's carved out a role on special teams but hasn't fully broken through as an edge rusher, could find themselves in a battle to stay on the roster. That's the cruel side of the NFL. Opportunity for one often means heartbreak for another. But that's also the price of competition. And right now, competition is exactly what this team needs. Don't be surprised if a few unexpected names hit waivers or get shuffled to the practice squad by the end of the week. Because as Booker, Homer, and others return, roster moves are inevitable, and every one of them carries weight. What's interesting is that the Bears might not stop there. There's growing talk that the front office could explore minor trades, flipping depth players for late-round draft picks, especially with the roster getting crowded. It's not confirmed, but the whispers are growing louder. One thing's certain, General Manager Ryan Poles has options now, something he hasn't had in a while. And when a team has flexibility, that's when smart moves can change a season. And speaking of change, it's not just the depth returning. 3 critical starters are finally back on the practice field. And that might be the biggest headline of all. It's one thing to get depth players back. It's another thing entirely when the foundation of your defense starts to return. That's exactly what's happening right now in Chicago. Kyler Gordon, T.J. Edwards, and Colston Loveland, 3 names that have the potential to redefine how this team plays moving forward, all return to practice. Each one brings a different kind of spark, but together they could transform this defense from improving to formidable. Let's start with Colston Loveland, the tight end whose absence has been quietly significant. When he's on the field, the Bears' offense simply looks smoother. His hands, his route running, and his ability to stretch the field open space for everyone else, especially Cole Kmet, who's been battling through extra attention in Loveland's absence. Getting Loveland back doesn't just help the passing game, it helps the rhythm of this entire offense. He's young, energetic, and after several weeks of rest, he's expected to return at full strength. If he's active against Washington, expect to see the Bears use more creative sets, 2 tight ends, play-action fakes, and misdirection to keep the defense guessing. Loveland's versatility is the kind of weapon that allows offensive coordinators to open the playbook again. Then there's T.J. Edwards, the veteran linebacker who's been dealing with a hamstring issue. His presence alone brings leadership, communication, and discipline to the front 7. Without him, the Bears have relied on Noah Sewell, who, to his credit, has been solid. 30 tackles, 17 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble, impressive for a young fill-in. But when Edwards is healthy, he's the glue that keeps the middle of this defense intact. The Bears can't afford to rush him back, though. A lingering hamstring can end a season if it's not treated carefully. If it takes another week, so be it. The long-term value of a fully healthy T.J. Edwards outweighs one extra game. And finally, Kyler Gordon, the cornerback whose talent has never been in question, only his durability. He's been nursing a hamstring of his own, and while the Bears want him back, they're also confident in the man who's been holding it down in his place, Tariq Stevenson. Stevenson has been quietly locking down opposing receivers, piling up 19 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 2 fumble recoveries, and even an interception. His 4.6 passer rating allowed since the Detroit game? That's elite territory. With Stevenson shining and Gordon returning, the Bears' secondary suddenly looks deeper and more dangerous than it has in years. But this is about more than just stats, it's about timing. Every player mentioned, Booker, Loveland, Edwards, Gordon, they're all coming back at once. That's not coincidence. That's a wave. A wave of energy, of belief, of players realizing that this season isn't over, not even close. And when a locker room starts to feel that, watch out. This upcoming matchup against the Washington Commanders might just be the turning point. The kind of game where fans look back months from now and say, "That's when it all started." The Bears, refreshed, reloaded, and reunited, have a chance to make a statement on national television. For Austin Booker, it's a comeback story. For TJ Edwards, it's redemption. For Loveland and Gordon, it's about reclaiming their roles. And for the city of Chicago, it's about hope. Because maybe, just maybe, the winds are starting to shift,